Hi, I'm Lena, and welcome to Super Data JP, the channel where we turn Japan's real estate and cost of living numbers into answers you can actually use. Every video here is built on verified government data, not opinions, and not guesses. Whether you're planning to invest, relocate, or just curious what life in Japan really costs, you're in the right place. Let's get into today's numbers.
Can foreigners use NISA, Japan's tax-free investment account? Yes, regardless of nationality or visa type, often within your first calendar year here. That's not the part you actually need to worry about. First video in a new series on banking, investing, and pensions for foreign residents in Japan. Today, who can actually use NISA, and the one nationality that needs to think twice before opening one. NISA is Japan's tax-free investment account. Normally, investment gains in Japan are taxed at roughly 20%. Inside a NISA account, those gains, dividends, and capital gains are completely tax-free. The common assumption, you need permanent residency, or years of living in Japan first, before you're eligible. That's simply not true. The actual requirements have nothing to do with your visa category, a Japanese address printed on your residence card, a My Number, a Japanese bank account, and being 18 or older. The one real gate is tax residency, roughly 183 days or more in Japan during a calendar year, regardless of what visa you're holding. Here's what most people miss. You become a Japanese tax resident on January 1st of the year after you arrive, which means plenty of people become NISA eligible well within their first calendar year in the country, not after some multi-year waiting period. Work visa, spouse visa, student visa, digital nomad visa, none of it changes your NISA eligibility. Tax residency is the only test that matters here. Since 2024, NISA runs on two pillars you can use together. A tsumitate, steady investment pillar, and a growth pillar for individual stocks and a wider range of funds. The tsumitate pillar caps out at 1,200,000 yen, about $7,407 a year, roughly 100,000 yen a month if you spread it evenly. The growth pillar allows up to 2,400,000 yen, about $14,815 a year, covering individual stocks alongside a broader fund selection. Use both pillars at once and you can shelter up to 3,600,000 yen, about $22,222, from tax in a single year. There's also a lifetime holding cap, 18 million yen, about $111,111, total across both pillars, of which no more than 12 million yen can come from the growth pillar alone. One detail worth knowing, if you sell holdings inside NISA, the tax-free quota tied to their original purchase cost frees up again the following year. You're not permanently burning through your lifetime limit every time you sell. You can only hold one NISA account at a time, at one financial institution, though you can switch providers once a year. Most brokerages require the application process in Japanese, so bring a Japanese-speaking friend or use an English support broker if that's a barrier. The second account worth knowing about is iDeCo, a private pension-style account with its own tax benefits, but a very different structure from NISA. iDeCo requires active enrollment in Japan's national pension or employees' pension system. It's built around retirement saving, not flexible investing, and the funds are generally locked up until retirement age. That locked-up structure becomes a real problem if you leave Japan for good. Getting a lump sum withdrawal isn't automatic. You qualify only if your account balance is 250,000 yen or less, or your total contribution period was 5 years or less, and you must file the claim within 2 years of losing your pension eligibility. Miss either threshold, and there's no early exit. Your funds stay parked in Japan, managed as an investment instructor account, until you turn 60, even if you've already moved to the other side of the world. A pension reform law promulgated in June 2025 tightens this further. Once it takes effect, leaving Japan while holding a valid re-entry permit will block lump sum withdrawal entirely for as long as that permit stays valid. The exact start date hadn't been fixed as of mid-2026, worth watching if you're planning an exit. NISA has its own exit wrinkle too. Once you file your moving out notification and become a non-resident, you can't contribute anymore, and the account generally has to be closed, though gains already inside it stay tax-free as long as they're not withdrawn first. So both accounts are genuinely open to foreign residents, with clear rules either way. Here's the part almost nobody explains before you open one. If you're a US citizen or green card holder, NISA and iDeCo can create a much bigger problem back home than the Japanese tax office ever will. The US tax code classifies most Japanese mutual funds and ETFs held inside NISA or iDeCo as PFICs, passive foreign investment companies. Japan taxes none of the gains. The IRS treats them as one of the most aggressively taxed categories of foreign investment that exists. Each PFIC generally requires its own IRS Form 8621 every year you hold it, sell it, or receive a distribution from it, separate paperwork for every individual fund inside your account. The tax treatment itself is punitive. Certain distributions and gains get taxed at the highest marginal rate no matter your actual income bracket, plus an interest charge calculated as if you owed the tax every year you held the investment, often erasing the entire benefit NISA was supposed to provide. The consistent advice from cross-border tax specialists: unless you've worked out a specific strategy with a professional who understands both systems, US citizens are almost always better off skipping NISA and iDeCo entirely and investing through a US domiciled brokerage instead. If you're not a US citizen or green card holder, this specific trap doesn't apply to you, though it's still worth checking your own country's tax treatment of foreign investment accounts before you assume Japan's tax-free label is the whole story. Picture two foreign residents in Japan, both investing the same amount inside NISA. One, from a country with no PFIC-style rules, keeps every yen of growth tax-free exactly as advertised. The other, a US citizen, files Form 8621 every year and ends up owing more in US tax than they would have paying ordinary capital gains rates outside NISA entirely. Before you open a NISA or iDeCo account, confirm you're already a Japanese tax resident, not just physically present. Check your home country's treatment of foreign investment accounts, especially if you're American. Decide on an exit plan for iDeCo before you start contributing, not after. And remember, only one NISA account is allowed at a time. Next in this series, the pension lump sum trap that costs departing foreign workers real money if they don't file one specific document before they leave. None of this replaces a real consultation. Cross-border tax situations get complicated fast, and a professional who understands both the Japanese and your home country's tax code can map your actual exposure before you commit any money. Almost any foreign resident can use NISA, often sooner than they think. Whether they should is a completely different question, and for some nationalities, the honest answer is no. Quick recap: NISA needs roughly 183 plus days of tax residency, shelters up to 3,600,000 yen a year and 18 million yen for life. iDeCo's lump sum needs a balance under 250,000 yen or 5 years or less of contributions, claimed within 2 years, and US citizens face PFIC reporting on both. That's what actually matters when deciding whether to use Japan's tax-free accounts as a foreign resident. Subscribe for the rest of this banking and investing series.
And that's today's breakdown. If you're serious about real estate or moving to Japan, research like this is exactly what separates a smart decision from an expensive mistake. Subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive, and drop a comment if there's a city or word you want us to cover next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.